this meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Ortonville Village Council, February 24, 2024, it's 7:02. That's calling the meeting to order. Next is the Pledge of Allegiance. I would like to ask Melanie to lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. A roll call, please, of the village council members.
No. Quisenberry,
Yeah, I'm here.
Nivelt,
Here.
Brooks,
Here.
Green,
Here.
Hayden,
Here.
Randazzo,
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Okay, folks, before I move on to number 4, I'm going to just make a comment, if I may. And it's directed at the village manager. And I read through my packet when I received it. And I realize we don't have a ton of things on the agenda, but I just want to thank you because I thought it was one of the most thorough packets I've ever read. Because it seems like every single item on here had a page detailing what it was about and a lot of the background information. And I just find that so appreciative because it means when we get to a meeting, we're already fairly well-versed, and we may end up with some questions or two here or there, but I just felt like after having read this packet, I'm more informed than I have been at many, many meetings in the past. So the people that take the time, and you pointed down at her, I don't really, I'm glad to give credit where it's due. But nonetheless, it seemed like every single item on the agenda had an explanation that went with it. And that's just really, really helpful to not come into something blind. So I hope everybody else noticed that too, and that's just a thank you to you. Moving on from there, we do have an agenda. 13 items are on it. 13 is the most important, but we still have to approve them all.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support?
The agenda has been moved and supported. All those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Next, 3 minutes went by and we're on number 5. This is a record clip. Is approval of the council minutes. We did receive in our packet the last month's meeting, which was Monday, January 27th, and there's a copy of the minutes in here for our approval. I glanced over them, but I didn't study them in depth, but if anybody has a motion or wants to discuss them, we can.
Make a motion to approve the council minutes of January 27th, 2025.
Support.
Okay,
Can I make that comment?
yeah, well, moved and supported now before we vote, definitely.
I know I had sent, I think it was Amber, I don't know if I did it to Amber and village manager, but number 10, unfinished business. The minutes really don't reflect what was, or what took place.
Number
And-
10?
Yes. So I had sent an email, I don't know, did you guys get that? And Amber, I think it was sent to you, but I don't know if it was to
What did you want to
and
change?
village manager. Did you get the email? No?
I get 1,000,002, and I couldn't tell you if I remembered it or not.
Okay.
But I,
Village
First I
manager,
was-
do you remember seeing it?
I'm looking in my box right now to see if there was.
Well, anyways, I did make, I did ask for a
If you'd like
change.
some changes to be made, we can table this and approve 2 of them next month, and we can put it in the
we
next
can
vote.
approve it
No,
with
that's
the
fine.
changes that she wants. She
Yeah.
can verbalize the changes right now, and we can approve it as is.
Yeah, that's fine.
So what?
Which
what-
is fine.
I
what do
thought you
want
were
it-
asking about.
I was
it
just
didn't
wondering if they
reflect
got
what-
it and why the change it wasn't made. Did they read it and think, yeah, no, or, but they can't remember even
Bes-
getting it, so
bes-
I'll handle
besides-
it out of the meeting.
Okay, so
As long as you're fine with that, we can table it, or we can just approve them, and then you can handle it if you want.
Yeah.
Okay, moved and supported. Is there any other discussion about the minutes? Hearing none, those in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay?
Oh, I'm sorry, we'll go with 6 to 1,
Okay.
and that's fine, perfect. Acceptance items. We do also have in our packet DDA regular meeting minutes of January 27th. That was the same day that we met last time, however, 12 hours sooner in the day than ours.
It's a long day.
A long day. Financial report and also a revenue and expenditure report. These probably are gonna start looking different to us now because village manager Matt has been tweaking the payroll, the accounting system. So sometimes the reports aren't gonna look the same as they have, but I can tell you every time I see one, it's an improvement over the one I've seen previously. So he's making headway in that regard, and those are in our packet for the village's acceptance. Everybody's kind of getting those reports and starting to see a little bit more how the layout is changing each time we get one.
Yeah, so the primary layout in the disbursement one was at council's request from last meeting. We now moved to, moving to align the month dates to the dates that this meeting is covering. So, sorry, that was a long way of saying, it's the 1st through the 31st instead of the 15th to the 15th, which is the cycle we had been on for as long as I can see in history, and we made that change. What that did was then tell us we have some opportunities to clean things up, and we had, well, I was gonna get to this later, but what's not on there is payroll distributions. So when you look at your revenue and expenditure report, you have a large gap between the disbursements and the expenditures, mostly explained by payroll. So we will start adding payroll into that starting next month so that the disbursements on that sheet match the expenditures on your other report.
Is
If
that
that makes
why,
sense.
the journals are a different, end total?
Yes, we
Which-
went through, because the way BSNA is set up on my computer versus Sue's or Bossman's, manager Matt, I'm not seeing the debits, so we missed a couple. But with hers pulled up, the one that was set in front of you,
The newer one, the
Yeah.
28,000,
The newer one.
okay.
so we have to change.
So
we
that
gotta
has
call
to be
BSNA.
changed on the agenda then, right?
We
Yeah,
can.
yeah, that does not reflect what's.
Right.
Yeah,
But we can just scribble that off on the agenda and
Yeah,
put in the new
sure.
number.
I was just wondering,
Yep.
because it's higher, what was added?
Yes, yes it is.
Right, and so once you add in the payroll and then pull the payroll out that goes to funds 202 and 203, there's was more numerical gymnastics had to be done to get it to match perfectly, because we have the multiple funds that we're drawing from to pay payroll, depending on who's getting paid, and so we just ran out of time today in getting that, and this is gonna be this process of moving to new reporting. We're gonna continue to improve it each month, so.
Okay, so the, for our purposes, that 28 grand number is the number we're, going to approve.
Correct.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, council members?
I'll make a motion to approve our disbursements through January, well, it just says for January 2025 in the amount of $28,186.14.
Support?
Okay, moved and supported to pay the bills and the disbursements for a little over 28 grand. If I could have a roll call vote, please.
Just one question. I do see the one difference in between there is tool, sport, and sign. What was the tool, sport, and sign?
Which number?
Uniforms for the Department of
Okay.
Public Works.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
As we're moving to a new system in how we're gonna do uniforms with the DPW,
Okay.
we're gonna do a stipend for them moving forward, but this was to get that started, and then throughout the year of '25, we have the stipend set up on a calendar,
Okay.
just moving away from the old way we did it.
Kind of a March and October, or April and something?
March and September, I believe.
Okay,
Sorry, I don't have those off the top
Yeah,
of
it
my
doesn't
head.
matter.
That would be right, that's every 6
Yeah.
months.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. You're good on the question, Larry?
Yeah, I just, that was,
Yeah,
I hadn't
I
seen
didn't know
that.
what that
That
was
was the only
either.
one that was different between the two, so.
As you were asking that question, that's exactly what had popped in my head, but prior to that, it hadn't occurred to me, but roll call vote, please.
Nivell,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Randazzo,
Yes.
Falker,
Yes.
Quisenberry.
Yes, that takes care of the disbursements for January of 2025. Approval of disbursements. Public comments. This is where anybody who was in the office or in the audience today that would like to address the council can. Before we begin with that, though, I would like to call on a a longtime friend of mine, Chris Mercino, was here, and he would like to speak with us. I believe Chris, right? Yeah. Okay, Chris is a local businessman here in Ortonville and spent his whole life along with his family. Come on up here, Chris. Yeah, you're
It's
gonna.
official.
You're just kicking off the comment business. Chris has some interesting business news that he shared with me on the phone a couple days ago, and he asked if he could come here and share the same news with the council, and I thought it would be really great for him to do so. It's him and some other people who.
I don't think they're here.
Okay.
Oh, oh, okay, there they are.
Introduce him, and can you come on up, because you guys are talking about the same thing.
We are.
Okay,
There's,
Jake, I
we know
presume
some,
okay.
there's some buildings in Ortonville, I think, the one on M15 by the A&W, right?
Yeah, so, as Ken mentioned, my name's Chris Mercino, local real estate broker. I've, been involved in some projects here in the village, the sale of, McPhee's to Meaches. I brokered that deal further down in the, township, the Coney from Mr. Baldwin to Mr. Nisley, that is no longer standing actually, but, an exciting opportunity arose here.
Pardon me, Chris, you also had something to do with Q's quilting?
I did. I didn't want to play the nepotism, maybe perhaps card, but yeah, as Ken mentioned, across the street from A&W, west of it, 440 South Ortonville, there's approximately 5.9 acres there. Currently standing there is the under duress. The dry cleaner closed during COVID. Behind that is Vivian's salon. Thank you. I almost said parlor, but that would have dated myself. And then the single-family white home just to the immediate south of it, same side. Jake Vaughn here and his group representing Scooters Coffee. Scooters Coffee has a proposal on the table with us, and I'll turn it to him to discuss more in a moment. But headquartered in Omaha, Nebraska, we began initial conversations back around the holidays, back and forth on letter of intent, entered into formal contract, 5-month due diligence period, which we're about a month into. Their headquarters I've been in touch with. They've been doing their internal studies on traffic count, population, demographics, et cetera. They approved it there to move forward. And the entire project and would include raising the current buildings there and going new. And I was going to wing it and talk on behalf of what you're planning there, but I'll let you.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
brought information I can leave behind or hand out now or whatever. But again, Jake Vaughn, this is my wife Sarah. We're local Clarkston.
Okay.
This would be our second location. Scooters Coffee is it's a kiosk drive-through. It's about a 700 square foot building, so no sit down indoors, strictly drive-through. Coffee drinks in the afternoon, well, quenchers, protein shakes, some small menu items, you know, breakfast, biscuit sandwich, muffins of the sort.
Sure.
But yeah, we're excited to be here and just wanted to kind of make an introduction. And I mean, I know we'll go to the planning commission and all that, but just if there's any red flags or concerns right away. And
Well, I don't know of any, but what I mentioned to Chris when he called was, you know, this council isn't asked to approve anything today or even,
Yeah.
you know, we
Yeah.
don't even have any say in this. And that maybe some of his bigger challenges would be with Health Department and MDOT. But those are challenges I'm sure that you have coming, or you know of them, and you're going to, you know, jump through all the hoops. And if and when something does come before us, you know, we have the foresight of having met you and heard an introduction from you. And I'm glad you could come in and tell us that there's some plans coming that might be coming. And we
Okay.
all are here just to wish you the best of luck.
all right, I appreciate that. Do you want me to leave you any literature? Or?
You know what, you can leave, yes, please do, but we'll pick it up on our way out. So if you
Okay.
could leave it with the clerk,
I will do that.
we'll grab it on our way out. And again, this was just an introductory thing where I
Yeah.
told Chris, come on.
Yeah,
if you
no,
wanna-
there's nothing specific. It's
wanna
just
say hi to you guys
introduction
just
of
say
what
that-
Scooters is.
Any business coming to Ortonville is a welcome business typically.
Absolutely.
Do you have one in Clarkston?
No.
Okay.
So
Would be
there.
your first one?
So this would be our second one. Actually, we go to we have one in Holly that's going to the planning commission this Wednesday.
Where will that one go?
In front of North Holly Food Market,
Oh, okay.
right at Grange Hall and Holly Road. So that would be our first one. This would be our second location. But as far as there are little over 900 locations. They started in Omaha, Nebraska. Michigan, they've been here maybe 2 years. The closest is probably Burton. There's one in Commerce, Sterling Heights. There's 5 or 6 in Grand Rapids. So they're starting to, and we'd be a franchisee, and our goal is to open 3 of them, so.
Oh, nice. Several years back, there was a little drive-through one on M15, and I really miss it when they shut down.
And I would say
Well-
you're on the right side of the road.
Yes,
for,
you are.
Yes,
for a customer.
well, that is one of the requirements, so we definitely have to be on the AM side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you all.
Appreciate you coming in, and thank you for that. I did tell Chris, because he was a friend of mine, I was gonna allow him to go first, so
Okay.
I did meet that requirement. But
All right.
now,
Thank you.
now it is certainly open for anybody else, and I would just like to see a hand from somebody who would like to speak with the, there we go, the first hand that came up next. Just state your name for us, please.
Yes, my name is Bowen Greil. I'm with the Michigan Blackhawks, competitive baseball, softball here locally.
Okay.
We've had a few interactions
Yeah,
over the years, right?
Recognize you.
So, hey, I running tournaments downtown. We started 10 years ago as a gladiator. I started that tournament 10 years ago, and we lived in Grand Blanc. We moved down here about 10 years ago. Right after that, loved the community. My wife's actually from the community, so I guess that was part of the draw as well. But, you know, hey, my passion is in youth athletics. I coach football, basketball, work with the varsity coaches across all dynamics. And, hey, we started the Michigan Blackhawks 4 years ago, during COVID, and it was really just to put a higher competitive brand of baseball and softball here in our community. Try to pull kids out of their rooms playing video games, make them do something athletic. And we started with 2 8U teams. Now we're running 9. We have 9 teams from 8U up to 14U plus a softball team. So hey, we're getting kids engaged and involved. Hey, the tournament structure for us, it's not about generating money. It's really about getting kids involved. It's about helping kids fall in love with the game of baseball and softball. And hey, after running it 10 years and having involvement in it, I think we're intimately aware of the challenges it creates downtown. And I think we really just want to collaborate and create an avenue that we can continue to run those tournaments in a way that has the least amount of impact, but also, it can help us to get our objectives accomplished, right?
Yes.
So I know it's on the agenda. I'm here to answer any questions about our organization, specifics about it. I put together a fairly thorough package. Hopefully it can draw a lot of conclusions and help kind of get us where we need to go. And I know sometimes the question is why, like why here? There's a nostalgia about the downtown fields. Little fields with lights on them are really, really hard to find. They don't exist. And, the kind of comments we get from coaches, right now we're out of the 4 tournaments running this year, hopefully downtown, we're 90% full.
Where are the other 3?
They're all downtown. That package has 4 tournaments in there.
Okay.
Yep.
Dates.
So no other locations other than right here?
We use other fields. Our goal has always been to keep them in Brandon, frankly. So we use the high school complex for our summer tournament, which is our largest. The rest of those tournaments are designed, to solely use those fields. I think, hey, one of the modifications that I think we're prepared to propose is to only operate 2 fields with any given tournament. And we do have some church collaborations with some other church fields that we can use for some of their age brackets. And then, of course, I know they're continuing to invest in the Hadley Park. And once those fields are done, that gives us a lot more options. We work with John and the crew on that as well.
All right, thanks for coming in, and again, you're gonna be on the agenda later on, but appreciate the introduction. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak with the council? Mr. Jenkins, you're kinda quiet in the back there. Okay.
I'll remain quiet.
That's good to know. That takes us to items from, I just want to ask one more time, was there anybody else who wanted to speak to the council? I didn't see any hands. Okay, let's go to items from trustees. I'd like to start down with Tony at this end.
Not too much. Matt did bring over this, the quote for the server. I'm gonna let him further discuss that because I just got the information over to him. That's about it.
Okay, we'll have him touch base on that later. Larry?
Yeah, a few things going on. First of all, tomorrow there will be that outreach for, come on, what is it called here? The Oakland County Outreach Meeting for all the public officials and stuff down in Oakland County and Pontiac. I am registered to attend that, so I will be bringing back information from that. I also got the notice that SEMCOG's membership meeting is general membership meeting. The first one this year is gonna be in March, and I'm gonna sign up and register for that. So that's gonna be coming up. I also did have a meeting with Matt, kind of a combined about the proposed finance subcommittee as well as some street meeting topics. And, we discussed the proposal about what the new finance subcommittee purpose will be and some concepts and ideas about what it will be doing. Also had some street topics. One of the things I would like to do, and we also, Bob happened to pop in, so we were able to also ask Bob about this too, is see if they could do an update of the PACER ratings for our streets, because I think it's really important that we get an update of all of our street conditions on the PACER scale. And I also asked Matt if he could maybe talk to the Planning Commission about taking up and reviewing the capital improvement plan and trying to see if they could review that. I think that would be important if they could get some of that done before we get into our budget planning, because that's an important feed into our budgeting. So that's basically what I've been doing and what we've been discussing.
And just because it's timely to butt in, the Planning Commission intends on having that on their next meeting agenda. I did have that follow-up conversation. That is something we're going to dive into at their next meeting, FYI.
All right, great.
Thank you, Larry. Melanie?
Let's see. Saturday I went to the winter market that was here in town. It was very well attended. I think there's 3 or 4 of them. There is a Facebook page, and it's the Downtown Business Winter Market. And they were selling raffle tickets when I went in for the Old Mill, which I thought was very cool. So I hope that's generating, I don't know, some help with
Interest, yeah.
with what you guys plan to do down there. There is a Septemberfest meeting on Wednesday at 1:30, and that is open to anybody, any public, anybody that wants to attend. If you can, 1:30, it's at the library. And
This Wednesday?
This Wednesday, yep.
There's several coming up. That's the next one, right?
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is the,
John has them once a month.
yeah.
Right.
Yep, and he did send out, I didn't bring it with me, he did send out a list of all the dates, but I'm sure someone from the office could send it to us. And the subcommittee, I'll wait till we get down to that with what we've been working on. And I attended my first MML meeting on Friday. And received a parking ticket, but now I know where to park.
What a welcome. What a welcome that is. Thank
But I
you,
went good.
thank you, MML.
Where not to park anyway.
Yeah.
They're a money-generating outfit, as you can see. That's why that comes about. And then you're gonna jump into something later on when it comes up,
Yeah,
right?
subcommittees later. Yeah.
And Alex?
Yeah, my really thing was meeting up with Matt earlier, about a week or so ago, about the subcommittee for being on the finance. So kind of just getting my head around that and looking forward to that. That's kind of
Okay.
my back.
And I'm gonna interrupt like the manager did just a minute ago to thank all the council members who partook in the different committees that we have in place right now, because they're all pressing matters, and I think everybody is stepping up to the plate. So I just wanted to say thank to all of you for that. Kay?
Basically, I'm looking forward to the finance subcommittee,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we're gonna be setting up a meeting date real soon.
Great. Linda?
Yeah, first, I want to say that I live right on Church Street, and I know that the DPW is out there working because they are out there waking me up before I am even out of bed. I've had so many people call me and say, how are the roads? I said, I cannot comment because our DPW does such a great job that it is done
Better than
way
yours, yeah.
before anybody else. So I just want to shout out to them. They work hard. And not only that, that they come back around later and, which is not technically, it is in our thing that we have to clear our own sidewalks, but those guys come through and clear the sidewalks, which gives our children a clear path to walk to the bus. And I just want to thank them for that. I also attended the winter market. I want to give a shout out to Tara. This was her idea. And she wanted to bring it downtown. And I think I walked out a week ago Saturday, not really anything happening. This Saturday, cars in town, people walking up and down the street, running into people that I haven't seen in 3 months. It's like old-time Ortonville, which is the charm of living in this community. So it was a great event, and I'm encouraged for her to bring that to our downtown. And I also met with Melanie and Matt on the upcoming subcommittee with our interlocal agreement and doing some work on who owns what in this town. So those are my things that I've been involved in this month.
Okay, I have the house at 58 Church, so I can verify the ownership on that one. Okay, thanks, Linda. That takes care of all the words of wisdom from the council members. It moves us on to number 10 in unfinished business. It's a special event permit, Blackhawk Baseball Tournament 2025. The manager did give us some printout information on that. I think that the council has some concerns about it, maybe the same ones we had last year. I don't know if those have been addressed yet or not. I just don't know for sure. But you know, as from last year, that one of the biggest issues is parking and vehicles and things like that. And in a way, it's a hats off to you and your group, because you are extremely popular and extremely busy and draw really, really large crowds. So what's the best part for you guys isn't necessarily the best thing for us. So Matt, I think, talked with the police people and the fire people, and it's really a parking issue. It's the number of cars and the number of people in any given place at any given time. And that was kind of the issue we had last year, and I don't know if that's been resolved or not, but it would still be my issue this year because of all the other businesses and some of the corrections to that didn't really sound that suitable to me, at least for last year. So I don't know if any of that's changed since last year to this year, or if we're still looking at the same set of circumstances.
Yeah, as far as the application goes, the circumstances don't change. There's also the concern in the brief that you have in front of you online, I think it is 7, which is really, it becomes a threshold question as to whether, given the ongoing efforts in especially the interlocal agreement and our own understanding of how we're going to utilize that field, if this council is even in a position to entertain anything this year at those fields before it is even considering whether or not the special event permit requested by this party. That threshold question really is something we have to deal with. I guess I'm not to push my opinion, but because we have to do the work of that subcommittee and flesh that out, we really don't know where that's going to end, and we really don't know what that means for the usage of that field, of those fields, that park, for this summer and beyond. So I'm not sure, as a threshold question, we're ready to even entertain whether or not we can be hosting baseball events this summer.
Well, you're still here, and I want to ask you a couple of questions. Our concerns, or at least mine from last year, still remain for this year, and the fire department and the police department shared those same concerns. If for whatever reason this council denied this permit for you, do you have in mind a plan B or a plan C or something else where you can still do all the good that you're going to do for the youth in the community, yet not do it here?
We are working on a contingency plan. I mean, there's nothing formalized.
Just curious, because
I mean, I think the challenge with baseball tournaments in general is that they're fairly popular, and fields in the area are very hard to get a hold.
Yeah.
right? You know, and a lot of the events that are scheduled and planned
Mhm.
are annualized, and, you know, it's not like there's fields that open up.
That's right. I
So-
agree with you.
You know, hey, we're committed. I mean, we're gonna figure out a way to make it happen one way or the other. But, you know, it certainly imposes a significant inconvenience.
I do know from 2 years ago that the size of it was amazing, actually a little bit too amazing. And that's where we lead into this. I did see you raise your hand, and I'm not likely to call on somebody, but I will in this case if you want to add to it.
My name is Kenny Ayers. I'm the president of the Michigan Blackhawks.
Mhm.
And thank you for discussing this. Like, should our local club be thrown out of the town? Like, does that mean there's no Little League all year? Does it mean that the tournament that was being run by a different organization out of Grand Blanc, they've always ran the Memorial Weekend tournament, was that tournament gonna be shut down, or is it just the Michigan Blackhawks? That's just my.
Oh, nobody here is picking on Michigan Blackhawks. If it were
Okay.
anybody
Thank
with any size of the number of size that you had 2 years ago is where my concern lies. It would be as if you were able to take your tournament and split it up over 6 weekends and have 1/6 the volume of traffic each time. That would probably be far more doable than everybody trying to be the same place at the same time. That is where we have a hard time accommodating it in the town the size of this one. It's really cars and parking is really what it boils down to,
Yeah,
and the number of people, but
And that's always been the challenge, right?
I know,
And-
that's the
and-
challenge for us.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, and I think we've done a number of things trying, and I don't know that they've necessarily all worked, right?
Okay,
And so, hey, very much so, that was more or less what I was trying to allude to is, you know, hey, I think, and it sounds like Matt and the crew, it sounds like your subcommittee's already working to determine, hey, what is an event, what's a reasonable event size to be held there? You know, and
that
when
too,
we-
and what's the reasonable amount of number of cars and parking and things like that.
Yeah, and that's a little bit what I tried to take up in there was, hey, I think when we look at those two, you look at the four fields,
Yeah.
you know, a 16-team venue, one number of
There you
exchange
go.
cars and vehicles.
And I wouldn't say that your effort in this is, that you haven't put a ton of effort into it, and I know you have. But it leaves us with the same conclusion. And I didn't mention this to you earlier, and I will throw this in now. We are in talks right now with the township folks about the village owns certain things, the township owns certain things, and we run different things, yet we don't have any agreements in place and never have. And we're working really, really hard to do that, because with the new concession stand that we just built, there's some funding issues that we have to work out. With the fields themselves, who really owns them and who's responsible and things of that nature, we have been working really hard with the township. We're just not there yet. And we hope to get them resolved probably before springtime, but certainly not in time to give you approval today to run your tournament like you planned, because you need time to set things up and notify players and notify parents and notify everybody. But I think the council is just can't see clear to approve it. But you did raise your hand again, and I'll let you speak.
Thank you, and these are just the facts on the July tournament. Bowen created a parking map for every team that came here. Gave each coach specific parking instructions where to park. We hired the senior center bus service and bused people from the library and where the cops train, I forget the name of that place.
Don't look
We
at
had
me.
teams show up there, and then we bussed them straight to the field. We made $500 worth of no parking signs and put them everywhere around and did not allow we had our own people, police and parking. We didn't allow one car to park on the street. We put up signs, we hired the bus service, and this is all, we did that in July. Then the next tournament that we applied for fall didn't get approved.
Right. And it's not that your efforts aren't, appreciated. They are. It's getting 1,600 people to follow them, or however many people come. And that's where all your efforts, as genuine as they are, doesn't always solve that particular problem on our end. Because there is a lot of public parking spots in the village of Ortonville, a stone throw from there, and those businesses are trying to do business. But every single one of the spots for that weekend is tied up with a baseball person. That doesn't do our business district a lick of good. It really doesn't. So to have somebody park somewhere, or maybe bus them in, or some other place where cars don't always follow the signs that you put up, matter of fact, quite often they will purposely not follow those. And they don't do it on purpose to disrupt the village's operation, it just ends up happening that way. And we find this in many of the events that we hold in this town, is that parking vehicles is a big, big problem in a business district. And those fields are, really, they are in our business district. I mean, they're, the fields out on Oak Hill, those are a long ways out. They have tons of good parking over there. That doesn't close down a business for the day. And that's our big issue. So your intentions are honorable, everything you're doing is fine, but I don't think the village council's in a position, because of those obligations I already named, the parking and also the agreements with the township that we need to work on, that we're in a position to approve it.
So it's official, no tournaments this year?
No, we haven't voted on it, but I'm just, but,
Well, that's sad, with all due respect.
I'm sorry, you want to make a comment?
Yeah, ma'am.
Well, here's what we should do. We should make a motion, get support, and open it for discussion.
I need to tell you something, but I don't know if it should be done on or off the record.
Well,
It's nothing,
it probably shouldn't.
it's the process of event permitting. We don't have the prior approvals of the other folks involved, so it's not before this board appropriately to vote on.
Oh, that's true.
Because the parties that have to approve it before us did not approve it, so
Yeah, that's the
that's why
comment I
this
was
isn't,
gonna make.
Okay,
that's what I was trying to say. It's not
That's
right
why those
to discuss, and it,
2 notices were included in our packet.
right,
Yeah.
and so it hasn't been approved to come to us yet. And that's
it-
where I was talking about it being premature for us, because we're not ready yet to,
Calling it
as a
premature
threshold, to
means
entertain whether we can do these kind of events.
Calling it premature means it didn't necessarily have to be an item under unfinished business, other than just a discussion item.
Follow-up discussion, yes.
Nothing's gonna be decided tonight.
Yeah. I can confirm, though, about the parking situation. I also work on our CERT team, Brandon CERT, and I support many of the events that are in our downtown area and stuff. And I can confirm that many of those events, post office complains about people parking in their parking lot when they're not doing postal business. So we often get complaints from, post offices and certain other places about people parking in places that are for specific business and things like that. So that is a concern, I know
It's gonna come
that,
before us again.
for every
so
event, really.
If things approve and things go the way they could go, this could be a slam dunk yes.
My comment would be that when you lump all 4 of them together, that's probably much more difficult. Size is a problem. So when you ask us to approve a 16-team tournament, and then you ask also to approve a 26-team tournament, when we're concerned 16 teams is too many, and you put them all together, it makes it very difficult. Also, the plans for each tournament are gonna differ a little bit. What do you have in plan? To say that we have approval from the churches, maybe you should have something from them that says, we have given our permission. Some proof of some of these things that, where you've rented your, again, the detail because of the concerns. And as, the manager was saying that our fire and police are saying this is not a safe event. And we can't just approve it when they're saying that this is not something that they feel can be safely done. So it's got to be very detailed for each one and not lumped all together as well.
Understood. If I can give some open feedback on the process.
We'll take it.
This is a different event. This isn't a typical event that perhaps is happening in town.
Well, then
And-
what differs it from what our concerns are? It
So
might
I'm
be
just,
diff-
so my concern is that, hey, the feedback on how to even approach getting approval for such an event, I mean, I appreciate the feedback. We've been told that before, that, hey, just do one at a time. We've been told, put them all together. And we've gotten multiple versions of feedback on how to approach it, and there's not really a consistency, right? And I think, hey, we're very open to working and collaborating to see how we make something like it happen. The dialogue doesn't really reciprocate, right? I mean, I've left messages, I send emails to the village manager, and I don't get responses. I don't know how else to communicate,
Well,
other than to show up here tonight.
That,
And
well,
I-
that
and
is
I'm not sure this is the
that's
right
probably
forum
the
for
best way, because the
That's
village
good.
manager does, in fact, doesn't get to say yay or nay, or thumbs up or thumb down. He gets to present it to us. with the facts and what we ask him. So, he's really not even in the position to say yea or nay. But this is, I guess, the first good step is having you here and
I'm not,
hearing
I wasn't
those.
looking for a yay or nay from you. It
Okay,
was more just
but-
a guidance on where we're going. You know, for 10 years, we worked it through Parks and Rec specifically, and it never made sense to me knowing that they were village fields. But I followed the process because that's what they told me to do, right?
Understandable.
Yeah.
I
It doesn't make
certainly
sense
get
to
that.
us
It
either,
doesn't
for
make
that
sense to
matter.
us, that's why we're doing
That's
this.
why we are where we
committee.
are.
Yeah.
I will share with you, I was appreciative that with the thoroughness of the way you tried to address the concerns about the parking and the permit. I do think because you have 4 separate events and they have different conditions and stuff, I think for that reason, it probably would be better to separate as individual requests. That way you could say, hey, for this event, we've got this shuttle scheduled, we got these places, here's the people who've agreed that we can do the, so that you could put all the details in one instead of, what makes it hard for us to prove sometimes when we get a packet saying, okay, yeah, we'll provide more details when it gets closer to the event, because then we can't really get
can't
final
approve it.
approval.
Sure. Hey, from my perspective, it's a template,
Yeah,
right? I mean, whether we
yeah,
run
so if you have a
1, whether we
template
run
with,
20,
if you start with the
you know,
first one and
On
that
your
one
end,
goes
it
good,
might
then you
be,
can
but
take that
on
to the
our
next
end,
one
it's
on.
different.
Yeah,
Well,
but if a 2-field event with 16 teams is
Yeah.
the limit, then that makes sense. And we can resubmit specific to that venue and structure, right? I don't have an issue
Yeah.
doing that.
Okay, but
Per event,
I'll
right?
just throw out an example for you of something that is a curveball to me.
Yeah.
Parking at the 2 churches, if even both of them gave you permission, but I think only one did, the other one didn't. But either one of those churches, and you're gonna have a shuttle bus, it would take longer to get on the shuttle bus and have the guy open and close the door and you'd be at the field. Because those things are not more than about 100 yards
If
from the
it's a
field.
2-field event, we don't need a shuttle.
That's right. But when that's offered up as a solution for parking, it wouldn't even make sense to have a shuttle.
The
There's-
shuttle was
there-
from the library, sir.
Yeah.
Okay,
That
but
was
last
for-
year's,
that was for
library
larger
parking.
last year's
That
one
makes
didn't even
sense.
have a consideration of parking at the library. Somebody's solution was we're gonna use the 2 churches, which again are closer than from here to that clock. And then everybody else was on their own to either park in someone's yard, whether they had permission or not, I'm not sure. But it didn't preclude anybody from taking up any spots here in town, be it any of the businesses on Mill Street, South Street, the post office, both sides of the road. There's nothing that addresses that whatsoever. And that concerns me. If we can figure a way around that, then we're a step closer than we are right now.
And again, maybe some of the people you need to speak with are the fire chief and Lieutenant Glover. They
Oh, I mean,
they sign,
we
they
have.
sign off on that, so those are the concerns, their concerns, we definitely take, very seriously. So again, that's another area that it's hard for me to say, yeah, I want these kids to come play baseball, and, I can't go with just, oh, this sounds like fun and I want it to happen. We have to think of the community and the safety.
I will say though, the last tournament you guys did, when you did have the signs out, was greatly different as far as many cars were there, because I live right down the street from the ballpark, and the difference was very much noticeable. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, we still have people parking in front of the signs though.
Yeah, I know. And look,
Unless you start towing them, they're gonna keep parking.
I know, and I understand that. And I also have friends that have kids that are in your program as well. So I'm for it. I think, when I look at the memorandum from the police and all that stuff, and it's what they're all saying. It's the cars. So I think if we can focus that with your team, I think people would really be for it.
Intergovernmental
Yeah,
agreement.
and that's
that
where
we're
we're
trying
at.
to do, yeah.
And I do know, like at Septemberfest, when they have a lot of vendors coming in, they do ask all of the vendors, park at the public library and use the shuttle to come back, so that they're not taking the spots up in town. So I think that could be another strategy that you could think about there, is try to get as many people as you can to get down parked there and use the shuttle to bring from that parking lot up to the ball fields. That would hopefully alleviate some of the stress on the parking in the other areas of the village.
And I know there's some notification that needs to go on and communication between you and all of the parents and mothers and players and everybody. But if somebody's gonna go to a shuttle area and they see a public spot that's open, it's human nature to take it.
It
Don't
is.
get me wrong, it could say, drive down here and get on this shuttle, but there's a public spot that's open, 9 out of 10 people will take it, and they just will. And you can send memos out unless you said something that you will tow them away, or something of that nature. That might have some teeth to it. But that's where the fire chief and the police chief and this board run into the trouble that we can't just block off a public parking spot and tell somebody, or ask them when they get out of their car, are you gonna go to the store, or are you gonna go to the ball tournament? We just can't do it. And it turns out that during the times of the ball tournaments, that's where they're all going. They're not going to the Hamiltons, or to the shop, or to, get a cup of coffee. They're going to the ball tournament, and we gotta find a way around that.
May I just get a clarification?
You sure may.
When you said you talked to this person and that person and you got different answers, you should be talking to one person or two, the village clerk, but especially the village manager. That's why we hired him. That's the only people you should be communicating with for our portion.
Sure.
I
I mean, even this year, I was instructed by Parks and Rec not to submit through them, but
Okay,
through Parks and Rec, right?
Okay, but
So I'm just, look,
I
it's confusing to me too. I don't
We're all
know.
looking
I-
for some
I sent it to
clarity.
that's
both,
why we want
right?
an agreement,
But I
so
sent
we
it to
know.
both, so I'm like, I'll just cover the bases, we'll send it to everybody.
Okay.
That's where we run into some confusion.
Yeah.
Just as another point of clarification, because we're not considering this event permit, I think just because of what Trustee Hayden said, and this is a public meeting, it's important for me to clarify, the library and the police training facility is no longer an option for a pickup site for any events. They're operating 7 days a week out of the police training center, and that lot will not be available for any events. Just since that was said a couple times, I wanted to be clear that that was something we were informed of by Lieutenant Glover.
See, we didn't even know that, so
Yeah.
that's good to know.
Well, quite frankly, it's private property anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, did you
I
check with them
wasn't talking
already
about that.
with parking? I'm assuming since you filled out the event form last meeting when we received it,
Why can't we have government saying?
that you went to the churches and the library
Churches,
and you got approval?
I mean, verbally from them was yes.
But, okay, nothing in writing. And then you got approval from the library and the police training facility?
Library, not police, we never used the police training facility, that was never.
Well,
discussed.
in the parking lot. I didn't
That's
know
the
how much
library
of the
parking
parking
lot.
lot was
That's
going to
that
be used.
parking lot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, library, yes, but we didn't, not
So you got approval from the library?
verbal, yes.
Okay. Well,
All right.
we'll,
Can I just ask Laura?
I don't know. It was-
She is
I
the
wasn't
director of her
person that-
library.
I wasn't the person that.
Did
that-
did
I
they?
haven't heard from anybody.
Okay, thank
I
you.
wasn't the person that
Well,
asked, it wasn't me
we,
personally.
Okay, very good.
let's just leave it at, we all have some work to do.
Yeah.
On
It
your
doesn't matter
end,
at this point. so
on your
we
end
need to
and on
move
our end. And, so we're gonna kick this can down, a little further down the road. Okay, let's move on. I hope we did our best to answer your questions. That's about,
Hey, I just want clarity.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't, I'm not disappointed, we need to move forward,
Right.
so. I
Right,
just
you
appreciate
need to
that there's
plan.
you do.
some clarity of where we need to go.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so do we, and you've pointed some things out to us that help us a little bit in our planning methods. Okay, that takes us to number 11, new business, DDA appointments. The DDA board, at its last meeting, did make a new appointment, but the DDA, like most of the village council subgroups or sub-governmental units, it requires the board, the village council, to approve the appointment of this member. It's Dana De Palma, and she is a DDA appointment person that obviously flew right through the approval with the DDA, but the final stamp comes from the group here at the table.
I make a motion that we approve Dana De Palma as a DDA board member.
Support.
Okay, Dana's been nominated and supported, or a motion, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Absolutely, aye.
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
make sure we
Absolutely.
include absolutely in
I know
this as
that.
well. Okay, and all the, any opposition? There is none, so Dana's officially a member of the DDA. Look forward to seeing her at meetings at, she's aware we meet at 7:30 a.m., right?
Yeah, she was there this
I
morning.
really think you should wait to tell them that part.
Yeah, don't tell them till afterward.
Bring that on her.
That's something you surprise on someone, you know, when-
Yes.
after they've gone through the
Oh,
whole.
by the way. you need to
Yeah,
s-
we didn't mention it. We do have a special event permit for Septemberfest, in our packet.
Do we need to do something with that class of
With the class
2029?
2029,
Well,
with,
that's, what they do is they stack up the year,
is that for Dana?
No.
Or,
It's
Oh,
a,
it's separate then.
that's separate?
I think that's gonna be her term, or would that be a correct way to frame it?
They are separate.
They're separate items. Yeah.
You just approved her, well, the DDA board put her in the class of 2029. So you just approved her in that class, but
Now
on
we
your
have to approve.
agenda is for
Other
two
members, yeah.
current board members whose term was up in January, and so you're reappointing them. Paula Maury and.
All right, I did not see.
Do we need a separate motion for them?
We have Paul and whom, because I do not.
Paula Maury and
Wayne Wills.
Wayne Wells.
Okay.
I make a motion to
Wayne
approve
Wills.
the DDA class of 2029 with reappointment of Wayne Wills and Paula Maury.
Support?
Can I have some discussion?
Yeah,
My only question is, I mean, I know this morning we had a little problem with the quorum, and I was kind of wondering, I mean, Wayne has moved out of the community and spends half of his time in Florida. I just wonder, I was just curious as to why, this is a member that we're continuing to go through till 2029.
I can answer by saying he isn't really taking anybody's seat up, because we're allowed to have up to 11 members, and it's sometimes even hard to fill
But
8.
how many do we need for a quorum? That's what I was worried about this
A
morning.
quorum is,
50% plus one.
Yeah.
yeah, half plus 1.
That's what I mean, that was the rough thing this morning.
Well,
And if,
that
I
being the
tell you, if I'm
case,
gonna
there
show
were,
up at 7:30 in the morning and
Yeah.
can't pull a quorum, I'm gonna be not happy. I just was curious, I mean, I would approve it, I just was curious as to, you know, that many years in that situation. I mean, I love Wayne, Wayne's a great guy. I just was curious.
The process that the DDA goes through every December, could start in November, but generally it's in December, is to approach both of the, or in some cases, 3 of the people whose term will be ending in January, to talk about their willingness to continue to serve for another 4 years. And so that exercise took place with both Paul and Wayne.
Are you limited to how many out of the area that you're allowed, or is it open to anyone, or is there a certain amount per board?
The DEA law speaks to a person having an interest in the
Okay.
district.
Okay,
There is a qualification, there is a qualification for to have at least one village resident if there is 100 people living in the DDA. We've taken the position that there isn't 100 people living in our DDA,
right.
but yet we're still committed to having residents serve on the board.
I like that.
makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, moved and supported on those 2 positions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, those 2 guys get to hang around for a couple more years anyway. I've never missed Paul at a meeting, so he's attended all the time. In my 2.5 years on the DDA, I think I can only recall of one occasion where a quorum was not met. So the other 23 or some, there was always a quorum. So it's not something that,
Yeah, I just,
it was just unusual that today we didn't. But again, it's only happened once,
Oh, yeah, I just,
that we didn't have a quorum and weren't able to conduct business. Okay, that takes us past the DDA, it moves us to Septemberfest. There's some information from Septemberfest that we have.
and the meetings are in there, by the way.
yeah,
the
yeah,
mi-
meeting
yeah.
dates are in here.
Septemberfest meeting dates, if you guys want them.
Oh, yeah, I see them, January, okay, February 26th, that's Wednesday. Okay, I think this is just kind of a let's approve it thing.
Yeah, I make a motion to approve the special event permit for September Fest.
Support.
The dates again?
Okay, moved and supported. I don't know the dates, other than the end of September.
It would
I
be
know that
September 13th.
It's actually
okay.
earlier
Yeah.
now, yeah.
Saturday,
Yeah, that
September
is.
13th. And I like that it's one day. I know we were trying to make it
Yep.
several days there and experimenting, which is always good. But I like the one-day event, I
Okay.
think.
Moved and supported. Are there any other comments on the permit
Only
process?
comment is that we will make sure our business owners get the spot in front of their business,
Yes.
free of charge.
Yeah, that'll be
Yeah.
something everybody would be in favor of.
That is my qualification.
Okay.
I know our CERT team's hoping it'll be a little bit shorter in terms of the street closure too, because that was pretty long last year.
Well,
Well,
2 days last year, right?
yeah.
No,
One
it was
day
just
now.
one day.
It was only
No.
one day last
Oh,
year.
it was still
Okay.
2
They
days.
did the beer tent Friday night.
And it rained, of course, you always gotta get the rain.
All
I
right.
just remember we were there.
Probably
they
doesn't
didn't open
require
streets
a
till
roll
7.
call vote, but I'd like to ask for one, just because permits seem to be a hot topic.
Brooks,
Condensed?
Yes.
Not approved.
Green,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Randazzo,
Yes.
Falker,
Yes.
Nivell,
Yes.
Quisenberry.
Yes. Okay, we're past that one. The next one is for the farmer's market. This one we approve pretty much every year. The farmer's market is run by folks in the DDA, and they do an extremely good job with it. It's typically Saturday mornings, and vendors come in and draw crowds of people into town to buy fresh produce and other such knickknacks and crafts that they care to sell. We do have this permit, and they certainly would, it runs all through the summer. I don't know the start dates or end dates,
Right
but,
here.
I mean, but it's fine.
14th through the September 22nd.
There we go. Those are the dates. Is there a motion for the farmer's market?
Make a motion to approve the farmer's market for the summer months.
Support. Okay, is there any other further questions? And because Matt is here, he might be able to answer them, but it's pretty, this one's pretty self-explanatory.
I do have a question on the Old Town Hall and the vendors. Are the vendors charged, or are they, is it a first come, first served? How does that work?
We only use Old Town Hall for vendors if it's a weather issue.
Okay,
So the vendors are our normal footprint strolling market on Mill Street, from South to Church. We use Old Town Hall for the restrooms every Saturday. And periodically, there would be an activity in the Old Town Hall, not every Saturday.
yeah, look for the kids, I've been to some for the, yeah, okay.
Miracle Box packing.
Yep.
is in Old Town Hall. That, kids' activities, periodic and entertainer. The front porch we utilize for programming as well. Miss Fran will do her
Reading, yeah.
activities on the front porch.
Yep.
Occasional musician will be on the front porch. Old Town Hall.
Always a
Yeah.
nice touch.
It is.
Okay, any
And-
other
Yeah, I
questions?
just wanna, I noticed he put on here, make sure that your food trucks are, obtaining the food truck inspection as required now, and I trust that you will sign off on that.
Oh, yeah, we're full disclosure on all of that.
I just wanna make sure that, that's something that could just be in here, we approve it, and never happens, so I just wanna make sure that you're committed to making sure that happens.
The fire department will,
Yeah.
the
They
chief
know
will be
when
on
Chief
that.
make sure.
Amethyst is there up there on
He has
Fridays.
to approve all those, yeah.
Chief says he's putting that on everything now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't blame them.
That's good.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Green,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Randazzo,
Yes.
Falker,
Yes.
Nivell,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Quisenberry.
Yes. Okay, that gets us past that. It brings us to item D, which is ESTA.
This is one of my items. Oh, sorry, if you wanted to say something. Were you gonna say?
No, you
Sorry.
say it's one of your items?
Yeah.
Do you want me to move it down to your?
No, I have I have more items here too.
It's
an item-heavy agenda this
You have
time.
a long list of items. I didn't know if you wanted to have this one separated out from your other one.
No, just as we come to it, I left you a fairly detailed list of what's going on with it in your packet. This is, I would classify as a nightmare for many Michigan business owners right now, trying to get last-minute legislation shoved down their throat, telling them that the government knows how to run their businesses better than they do. And there's all of that frustration wrapped up in it every time anyone talks about it.
It's changed since then.
It continues to change. They have been talking for several months that it was going to go into place on February 21st. They decided to make dramatic changes to it the night of February 20th and still put it in place the morning of February 21st. So,
But it won't be for us now, though.
yeah, so there was originally an exemption for employers of less than 10 employees. Then there was a question about the definition. Was it 10 employees at a time or 10 employees for the whole year? And did you all count as employees? Well, then they clarified and said elected officials do not. And it's employees at a time on the given payroll. So since we're below 10, it didn't apply to us. Then they changed it and said now it's one employee or more, it applies to you. Then Wednesday night.
Self-employed, you have to follow this.
Right. Wednesday night or Thursday night, when they made all the changes, they changed it again back to 10. So we are prepared to operate with it anyway. I think that's the safe bet right now. Two things that are important, which I mentioned in here, our current policy already exceeds this, so it doesn't matter, save for two employees we have who do not get fringe benefits because their hours are so low. They will now accrue time just because, well, I shouldn't say they will accrue time, but the payroll system is now accruing a bank on their behalf that meets this in case it gets applied to them again. And it's at a rate of 1 hour sick time per 30 hours worked. So one of those two employees will probably get about an hour a year, and the other one might get 5 hours a year. And so it's a benefit we're being forced to offer, which you know, whether we want to offer sick time to folks who, the hard part is they can only use it during their regular scheduled time.
Right, exactly.
So when you have people who are on call, you have to call them in just to let them go home so you can pay them sick time.
Yeah.
This is your government at work.
Yeah.
They passed it off and said it's a voter initiative, that's why it's a mess, but they're the ones that put it in place. So, you know, they're talking about, luckily, we don't have the issue with on-call folks. We have two folks who kind of fit that role. And if we have to, we'll basically just give them a check
And we have our
each year
DPW.
for that dollar amount. The DPW all earns at a much higher rate than what this puts in
Correct.
place.
Right.
That rate of 1 hour per every 30 hours worked is well below any industry standard I'm aware of. And so I went through and did the calculation, ensured that our payroll system is accruing them at a higher rate, which everyone has. I can give you a breakdown of what everyone's rate is, or you can just believe me
believe you.
that the lowest one we have is 1 every 25 hours, which is the industry standard. That's what most of our employees are on.
Okay.
Right. And so
So-
October 1st is when this will,
Right,
from
so
the state, go into effect.
we did go ahead and make,
Supposedly, yeah.
right, the two attached documents are for employees to sign, and that's because there is a requirement in it that they are made aware of their opportunity to sue. There's also a big thing is that it's now the burden of proof switch from the employee to the employer. So it's now the employer's burden to prove that they did it, which is a big deal in the legal world, but again, our risk is very low because we, you know, it really doesn't affect our operation the way it does most small business owners who are really going to be hurt by it. So, so now I guess because of that change, which happened after we made the packet, it's moot for the time being, but know that it's probably going to come around again.
Okay, thank you. On to item E, which is subcommittees. I made mention earlier that everybody's participating. It sounds like both subcommittees are underway, however, not completely completed with what they were set out to do for us, but that is an item on the agenda, and people that are on either the two committees, the one was with the Parks and Rec intergovernmental agreement, and the other
Right.
was a tech issue?
No,
or-
the other one's a finance subcommittee. So
Finance subcommittee,
the two subcommittees are both temporal in that they're probably 3 to 6 months maximum. And if we can make them official tonight by a vote of this board, as 6 of the members are members of those subcommittees. The kind of the important things being, they were an invite, so all 6 trustees, not counting the president, were invited. Nobody is required to be part of them, but it helps me significantly to have people, first of all, to extend the lens of accountability, that what I'm doing is what I'm reporting to this body is what I'm doing, and the other being, input of different ideas and whatnot as we continue to make dramatic changes to both our financial policies and then also as we're drafting this interlocal agreement, because it is significant to both the village and the township that we get that done. So they are voluntary, but I would appreciate if we formalize them, because then we move to a requirement to take minutes of those meetings, and then obviously, not that you all want to vote for your own pay, but then, these would be meetings that, like any other meeting, you would be putting on your timesheets, so.
Who is supposed to take the minutes?
It's an interesting question. I'm glad you volunteered for yours. Thank
No,
you.
no. I
I
guess
suppose-
I wasn't sure, because I know we're working independently as well.
Mhm.
Like, we met once, but I know Linda and and Tony have worked independently.
Right.
So
And
how do you foresee the minutes?
yeah, the idea for that first meeting was informational, which is what it was for the other subcommittee. Your subcommittee kind of hit the ground running and took some things away from that first meeting. And so what I would foresee is that at the next meeting, we recap what has been done by each member since the last meeting and how it may change things moving forward, and then taking assignments from that meeting, kind of what we're going to do moving forward. If you want to appoint someone as the secretary in each of those subcommittees, that would be fine. If you want it to be me, or if we wanted to pay a recording secretary to take minutes, if we wanted to record the meetings, all of that would be up to you and how you wanted to do that. I did not consider that mechanism until right now, so.
And there's no reason it couldn't rotate amongst the members.
Yeah, from my
Sure.
perspective, when you get there at the meeting,
Right.
you just designate somebody to take notes for that
Yeah,
meeting.
somebody volunteers and away you go.
And that's what
Okay,
we've
there.
done before.
Yep, there it is. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to, you want them both separate?
No, the motion I would be looking for would just to formally create these 2 subcommittees, recognizing that they're temporary. The other committees that you all serve on would be, throughout the year and
Right,
not
right, right. These are
necessarily
separate.
supplanting this.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to have a interlocal agreement subcommittee and financial oversight subcommittee for a temporary time of up to 6 months to be looked at then.
Support.
Great motion, good support. Everybody knows which committees they're on, so we don't have to go through and rename them. And those in favor of forming these committees, please say yes.
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 Aye. Yes.
Aye, yes.
Those opposed, say no. Or nay. Or nada. Okay, we have officially into the minutes of this meeting, the appointment of 2 subcommittees within this council to handle the tasks that were expressed. That gets us past subcommittees, it takes us to the manager's report, and I think from here on out, our village manager takes over.
Now the long list begins. There was the next brief I had put in your packet regarding the recreational marijuana permit application for the properties at 456 and 490 South Ortonville Road. I put together some historical information because I think it's good to have the context. You've all read through and seen that. I also included a letter from the planning commissioner, president of the board?
Bob MacArthur.
Chairman of the board. Chairman of the planning commission? Sorry, I want to get his title right.
Oh,
Mr.
chair- yeah.
MacArthur.
Yep, chairperson, yep.
Regarding their concerns. This, again, has somewhat become untimely because today we were informed that another buyer not related to any marijuana sales closed on the purchase of the property at 490 South Ortonville for a different business altogether that's unrelated, which I think renders moot the application at this point.
For 490.
For 490.
Formalize that at some point.
Is that
And-
the cabinet shop? Or the
no.
Provanga?
The 490 is the further south one. It was the cabinet shop, yeah, or the cabinet and countertops.
Yeah, countertop.
My understanding, it was bought by Laser Lines, who does paving and painting of
They're downtown
asphalt.
right now, yep.
Yeah, they have 2 offices, from what I understand, they're combining into one. So, that fact, now that is a fact, it was conjecture at the time of me drawing this brief. And based on the letter from Chairman MacArthur, it's an apropos time now, and because of the fact that the sale closed today, I don't need approval from this board, I don't believe anymore, just to notify that application is now moot, and is any perception of an application being held or transferable is fully rescinded, so I will issue that letter.
So that means the
Wednesday.
2 licenses, now one of them will be revoked because of the sale of property to a different business.
Where's
And
the
then
other
we
one
still
at?
have the other
next
licenses
to
still.
No, I meant, where are we at on that other one?
Yeah, so, I have a question that's probably not fair for me to publicly say. There's a question as to whether or not the property we heard of tonight involves the other property. I'm not positive of that, though, because we didn't investigate enough. I have heard 2 different stories as to what properties they're thinking of buying, and so I'm not positive on that. I'll follow up with those folks and find out. Trustee Brooks seems quite confident that's not the case, given her reaction.
Just,
I would suggest it's not the case either, because I was thinking of purchasing that building myself, before I got the building in town. And that was the Realtor who was selling that building that used to be a dry cleaners. They were on the list to get a license, and they didn't make the cut. So we had 6 applicants, and the other, Provenco and the countertop guy, were the 2 that got it. So theirs was denied. They would have probably preferred to go that way, just because of the value the property would then bring, but because they missed out on that, they're turning into the coffee business.
there you go.
So there will be a need for further discussion, not at this meeting, but what that process looks like moving forward. So I will draft that rescission letter. Would it please the board for me to submit it to you via email before I send it, or are you comfortable with me sending based on those legal conclusions that it's moot based on the sale of the property?
Say send it and just put it in our backup next time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Info and
I mean, that's
package
just
good.
my opinion.
Yeah, I'm good.
I do have one follow-up question related to this whole topic, though, that maybe you could also include an update next, for the next meeting, is to review when we were required to adopt the ordinance based upon the ballot initiative, and when the time expires for us to revisit that ordinance and rework it.
Yes.
That's part of the larger discussion that needs to be had, but like I said, it would be very,
Because I know that that's gotta be coming up soon, and I
Yes.
think that's a topic we
It's-
definitely
it's,
wanna look at. when
That's
it
something
comes
the
to that
planning
time.
commission is on, and we have it on our calendar.
Okay, good, good.
Okay.
I've never lost sight of that date.
I've ignored it for a few years, but I know it's coming close.
okay, I apologize, I wanted to get that note down. Moving on to my report. First of all, I again appreciate the patience of this board. I said the same, offer the same appreciation to the DDA board this morning as we continue to work through reforming how we are doing financial reporting, and we continue to draft things out and give you new ways. I appreciate the patience of seeing things in new ways. To give an update quickly on where we're at in that process, as you're all aware, we basically are seeing it as a 3-faceted approach, going through consultants for all 3. The first being our auditors, obviously being the most expensive hourly one. I'm running the least amount of things by them. So the process started with them. It then moved down to the next level, which is a government finance expert who has done a lot of consulting for us, helped us to understand where our systems need to be and why some things are the way they are. The next thing is we've contracted. In fact, today I redlined and negotiated the contract for a bookkeeping expert who does, this is what they do as a business, and they just happen to live here in Ortonville. So she has a business that's in 8 or 9 states with businesses all over, and she's doing bookkeeping in all kinds of different ways and different types of businesses. So she's going to be kind of the boots on the ground. So the way I look at it from the 50,000-foot view, we're now kind of down to the ground level, working in the weeds, getting the actual procedures set up, saying this is going to be our bookkeeping process moving forward. This is how each and every part is going to be not only handled, but formalized into a manual so it can be repeatable, transparent, and then it also will cover the issues of dual controls, splitting ownership over different responsibilities, because obviously that will please then the auditor. Then we'll bubble it back up to the government expert, say this is what we're planning on doing. Do you see any issues with that? once she says, nope, you should be good, then I'll take it to the auditors and say, here's what we're gonna be doing. You give me a date, that's the day we'll pull off the Band-Aid, and as of that day, we'll be operating differently, because them being our auditors will need to know there's different systems going on. My goal is that all of that is done by April 1, maybe April 15 at the latest, that we have those processes done, yes. This year, yeah.
I like that.
I'll say next year, then I'll look really good if we're done this year.
The next village council can deal with it.
That's my expectation right now, based on the availability of the bookkeeping consultant and how many hours she's able to give us. Sorry, train of thought there. So my goal would be that, and then the auditors either would say, start today, or they may say, wait till the end of the fiscal year, because it'll make it easier, because this year's audit is going to be a challenge anyway. We know that, because we're learning how to use these systems as we're trying to make them auditable, so to speak. So wherever that decision ends up, obviously you'll know more as we get there. But I just wanted to give that probably a more thorough than needed update. But I know this has been part of my manager's report since I started this job, and it continues to be the major focus of my week each week. It continues to be more than 50% of my time is spent on this stuff every week. Huge kudos to both Amber and Sue, who have taken on so much of the yoke of this project to learn the processes and learn where they're involved, helping me to know that the data isn't right, so then I can perform analysis on the data and do more of that traditional treasurer role of being able to bring you informative numbers and present them in a way that helps you make decisions. So they've been instrumental, and it's been truly a joy to have them working on these things without getting mad at me like they should when I keep dumping stuff on them. So the next thing, so I'm going to skip over a few things that we've already talked about on here. Following up on Trustee Hayden's comments about the street meeting, one of the major things we have going on, as you all saw today, there was a significant melt in town exposing, again, the shape of our roads and the new damage that's been done to them. Director Hawkswell and I have already had several conversations. We've already procured some of the crack sealing material, some of the filling material to be ready to go as soon as things thaw out. We're supposed to have a couple 40-degree days in a row here, but it's going to freeze again, so probably wouldn't be prudent to do it immediately. But we have a plan for a pretty significant crack sealing operation this year and a pretty significant fill operation. And then I am looking at options for getting some paving done and how we might be able to do that within realistic numbers. So just know that that's already a significant focus of the Department of Public Works. They're on that, and you will see a lot of activity. Going along with that note is we will likely need to hire a additional DPW laborer that would be seasonal for the spring and summer to do that road work. One thing that's important to note out of that is that the Act 51 money, which is all for roads, pays for salaries and wages, so most likely that person's wages would be coming out, like all of the plow wages and things, coming out of that line in the budget, not out of the 101 fund, the general fund. So understanding that that funding is already there for that position, so it's not that we're adding something new necessarily. But that's going to be an identified need. We just don't have the manpower right now to accomplish all that we have to accomplish on the roads this spring. Moving on to,
Just
sorry.
one comment. If you could, make sure to reach out to SEMCOG also, because I know that they have somebody that can also, he came out before to help us out with the PACER assessment on the roads before, so.
Yeah,
And they're a great resource for things like that.
Is he attending
I don't
because I
know.
know Ryan did with him.
Yeah, I wish I could recall his name off the top of my head, but I could dig that up if you want the name.
yeah, I can look it up. I mean,
I think Ryan might have had it in his notes too, maybe.
I think whether it goes through a formalized grading process or not, we all drive on those roads and know desperate need of attention is the status of most of them. And so, but yeah, Bob's going to take on the PACER. We talked about as well doing it with a video camera so that we have an established baseline. And next year when we go to do it, we can see the video of how things looked and how we graded them, and then start to have some historical reference as to what's going on.
Really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is.
It's gravel now. I thought it was
Yeah,
paved before.
exactly, yeah, that could be really bad, but, you know, it's a very good idea.
And roads are a significant part of our responsibility, right? The Act 51 money is nice, but it doesn't come near to funding the needs we have. And so
Million a mile.
this will be, it's actually closer to 2 million a mile
Is it?
right now, which is
Okay.
pretty shocking, but that's the last quote we got. So at 2 million a mile, we have 3.6 miles of roads, so you're looking at 7.2 million. I won't even,
What's our
Yeah,
annual
big
budget
sale.
towards roads?
yeah.
How
It's,
many years?
Do a big sale.
Let's do that.
it's 11 years of our total revenue would be to do a paving project. So it's unrealistic in a way, but we have to be creative in finding ways to do it, including improving our Act 51 funding and our eligibility. So those are all things we're working on. Nothing I can promise at this moment, but just know that's a significant portion of my focus for the DPW, and it will be a significant focus in the budget writing process for next year as we're getting close, not to give anyone the heebie-jeebies, but we're getting close to budget writing time, so I know it's not everyone's favorite.
I'm looking forward to it with all the
Sooner the
changes we're
better.
talking about
Right.
with the economy and all.
Another thing with roads is a need that's been identified for a parking ordinance. We have a car that's been parked for several weeks under very large piles of snow right here on Mill Street. There's a second one at the corner of Mill and Church. The one on Mill Street was tagged after some repeated asking because our equipment couldn't get through and plow the roads, and so they were piling. We had about a 6-foot pile of snow in front of and behind that vehicle, and Sheriff's Department looked it up, found out it was people who live in one of those buildings, and decided that was their personal parking spot, and they're out of town for some number of weeks on some vacation.
You say you live in town, in the buildings over top of.
That's what-
Kratz Place there?
That's what I found out from the deputy. They tagged it on Tuesday, saying it would be towed on Thursday afternoon. I left to take care of some stuff on Thursday and thought it would be towed either Thursday or Friday. I came back today and it's still there, and the tag's been removed. So I went to talk to them today, and I told them, tomorrow morning, I hope they tow it because it's easier if they do than I do. But if they don't, I will,
But
because
why
we have to
wouldn't they
clear them.
tow it? It's a violation. Regardless if they're out of town or not, it needs to be moved for
The
snow
decision makers were not there today to tell me that answer. So that's why I'm going to
Gotcha.
talk to them first thing tomorrow morning to find out where we're at. And if they're not going to, I will, because we need to clear that out, obviously. Now, then, of course, today with the snow melt, that helped quite a bit. But it still is important. And so that brought up the need for clarification, which I need to take to the Planning Commission first, as to what a snow emergency ordinance would look like and whether a snow emergency would have to be declared or not in order to enforce parking on the streets, or if we can just put signs out that say no overnight parking within 72 hours of snowfall or whatever it is. I need to flesh that stuff out. So I just want to put that on your radar, that's been requested by a couple different bodies.
I also hope they tow it because it does send a clear message that
Don't do that.
we've been being taken advantage of with people
Right.
overstaying their parking, and, a
My
car that
understanding
doesn't
is
move
they
for
have a
weeks,
parking spot for them behind the building, which is where they're supposed to
but they
park,
choose
so.
not to 'cause it's.
Well, probably
Right.
was covered in snow and they just left it.
Right. So,
It wasn't plowed, yeah.
of course, if it were a Hollywood movie, I'd have lots of funny things to do, but we're not gonna do anything damaging to the car, but it's going to be towed in very short order, and at the owner's expense. Speaking of issues, we had an issue, maybe it started 4 weeks ago, I want to say, with a water leak at one of the apartment buildings on Village
Court.
Village Court?
Village Court.
Awesome. This was a water leak that was coming from a landscape bed. It had a positive flow of water. It was a pretty significant amount of water coming out. It flowed down through their parking lot onto our street and onto 3 neighboring properties. Over the course of days, I called them immediately, the new property management company, told them about the issue, told them it was creating a public hazard and needed to be addressed that day. I guess they came out the next day and talked only to Aaron from our Department of Public Works and told him it was snow melt and don't worry about it. And Aaron put his hand in the hole and said, look, there's a current of water coming out from the ground. It's not snow melt. And the guy said, yep, looks like snow melt to me, and left. So I started citing them $1,000 a day because they didn't take care of it. And after 6 days, I think, I called them and told them, today's your opportunity. I said, my guy has a backhoe at the DPW. If he gets here first and touches the ground, it'll be $50,000 for the work plus an hourly rate. And they all of a sudden had a backhoe on the way and took care of the problem. It turned out to be a broken water main pipe supplying water to the building, but it caused significant issue. We spent probably $6,000 to $7,000 on salt just to take care of that problem. A lot of hours from the DPW chiseling out the driveways of the adjacent property owners, clearing out the culverts that were being blocked. So this was a significant problem, and there will be a significant bill from it. Whether or not they pay it, I don't know, and what ramifications I have as the treasurer. Beyond that, we'll figure that out when we get there. But I don't have that.
The 1,000 a day is what the.
Those were the citations, yeah. So that's separate from. And so I don't have the final bill yet because I actually just was processing payroll for pulling those hours out and understanding what all we spent on that. So
Adjacent property owners driveways, why didn't the apartment, once they came to fix?
this was all long before they would come. So
Gotcha,
there was a
okay.
I want to say it might have been longer than 6 days. Maybe it was 10 days where they ignored my calls and weren't handling it.
So
And
this big water main pipe just didn't affect the apartments as far as flushing toilets or anything?
It didn't. It was, my understanding is they had put landscaping in over the supply line, and over the years, the roots of the tree grew down and cracked the pipe. So it was enough to finally find an easy way out, but it wasn't enough of the water flow that there was still enough going into the building to operate things. I spoke with a couple of the residents. Oh, that's another thing I should share with you. Sorry that I'm talking too long now. They told me their water was okay, but each of them started listing off a lot of other safety concerns in the building that all were building code issues, and so I informed our building code enforcement officer, who's also the deputy fire chief, that there were both fire safety and building safety issues in there. He told me he was going in to check those out. I have not heard back from him yet as to.
Is that owned by a group called Silverside Management?
It is now. They're a new owner, from my understanding. They bought it sometime last summer, I believe, if my memory is correct. So I have the owner of that company on speed dial now, and he picks up when I call. So,
Well, they call me quite often because I do evictions over there in apartment 101 of the first building. I was there about 3 weeks ago evicting a tenant
okay.
who was a problem tenant. And the tenant not only left, but left his dog there on the tenant.
Oh, my
for a
gosh.
couple days.
Gosh.
So, but I did have to deal with Silverside Management. The people that are in charge of rents and evictions were, very respondent to me.
I'm sure.
But that's because they needed something done.
Hmm.
Okay, you brought it up. I gotta ask, is the doggy okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Got the-
I'm happy.
I was gonna ask the same
Control, I
thing.
make a
This
phone
is when-
call and
I can't not
animal
ask.
control comes out on a half hour's notice if I give them a call.
Okay.
Okay. So
No, but that's.
the other two things, and I'll make these much quicker. One is continued work is happening on developing the separate employee manual for the DPW. That was going to include this ESTA stuff, but of course now we don't believe it needs to. But and then the last thing is that the Planning Commission has interviewed a new potential member and invited that member to their next meeting to kind of vet them out and see if that's someone they would want to add to fill a vacancy. So just be aware that's going on. And that's, oh no, that's not the end of my list. I'm sorry. I do
Killing
apologize.
us.
I know.
this is
Believe
fine.
me, I know.
This is what this is meant for.
Wayfinding, we continue to work with Signorama. We have a number of signs working, and so in the next 2 months, you're going to see a significant number of new signs coming out. That will be the Welcome to Ortonville signs, and then a couple on Oakwood, and then we'll be starting on downtown signage as well. So kind of exciting that as spring comes, we're going to have some of that new stuff going on. You have the quote for the server, as Trustee Rendazzo said. He said I would speak more about it later. Basically, I think I quickly brought up with this body last month that we had a quote for a Cadillac and a quote for a beater, and we'd probably be somewhere in between. This is the Cadillac quote. and then some. It doesn't really meet our needs, it doesn't really fit our parameters, and it's very, very expensive. To the tune of probably 9 to 10 times what the other quote is recommending. And that other quote is based more on, it's someone who knows me and I trust and I've worked with before, and I gave parameters for what we need, and rather than telling me, no, you need much more, he said, oh, okay, we can make that happen, because coming in and seeing the operation and understanding that our needs are not significant is a big deal. And this quote you have in front of you is based on significantly more than we need. The reality is what we're coming to what we're coming to understand is we don't actually need a server, because the server serves purposes we don't use it for. We're basically way overpaying for file storage in a server. And so, long and short, I was hoping to have multiple quotes for you tonight. Unfortunately, this is the only one I have to show you. But just to know that continues on, I still think we all know that there's a lot of equipment that has to be replaced, but I think we're developing a much better approach for its replacement, one that will be significantly cheaper up front and significantly cheaper to maintain in the long haul. So that's why.
Just a comment on.
Yep.
It looks like they're looking to give a cloud server to.
Mhm.
And I think that, I can tell you our experience from our businesses, in general, on-premise is cheaper than doing it in the cloud. So if you
Mhm.
just buy a piece of hardware, it's probably gonna be a lot less than
Right.
doing cloud.
Right, so this one is, and I don't remember the exact number, but I want to say roughly 25,000 up front, and then 25,000 in fees over the next 7 years, which is the life cycle. And so then by the time we'd be replacing it, we will have spent 50, and we'll be asking for another
And if
25.
you're mostly using it
And-
just for storage, you're
Right.
probably better off with just a glorified PC with a lot of disk space.
Right, right. And so I will present why the plan we're doing fits our cybersecurity needs and our business needs, and why it makes more sense to you next month. I apologize that it's not ready yet, but I think it's going to be somewhere around 5,000, maybe even less than that. So obviously it'll be a much more savory option. So we can put some of the rest of that money toward the roads.
If I can add to that, this quote that we have here, I've been working on this since, I think it was last week in December. And it was just constantly being pushed, oh, well, you got somebody else looking at it right here, and it's just been going on. I was not impressed with that company at all, so.
Not if it takes 3 months for a quote.
Yeah, and then when they did send the last quote, I think it was for the Azure, there's like you gotta do it by date, and it was like the end of February. I'm like, well, no, not gonna happen, so.
I'm not going to say lastly again.
Is this the same, because back when I was IT committee, it was IT Right. Is this the company?
It's, yeah,
is
they
they're
bought them.
rebranded?
They bought them.
They bought them out? Okay, because IT Right, when I was dealing with them several years back, they were pretty good to work with and very responsive to our needs. So if that's changed, maybe we need to shop around for different IT companies.
We're also getting quotes from Spectrum Business right now, which is really the only one who's going to offer the services we need for Wi-Fi, phone. It's basically a business suite thing that they do. It's going to be reasonable. It's probably going to be cheaper than what we're paying the county now to be on 1972 technology that doesn't work very well. So that's going to be a nice upgrade too. Again, I thought I'd have that quote for you, but just know that we're fielding quotes for several different projects. Another one is for flooring in the office building. There's a lot of trip hazard issues with the old carpet there that's been there for, I want to say, at least 4 decades. And so we're looking at making some changes there. I also, on kind of my 60-day view, I'm looking at building updates at the mill, the DPW, and Old Town Hall as well. So just know that all those things are kind of bubbling around in my head. Most of that is with money that's already budgeted for this year. It's lines that just haven't been utilized yet for this year. Some of it will probably have a carryover, but we're working on having intentional 3 to 5 year plans and probably longer plans coming out of the CIP, but applying to all those buildings. So just know that those things are working. And the last thing, the real last thing, I will be on vacation during next month's meeting. So I don't know if it should be a much shorter one to those of you in the crowd, because I won't be here to talk. But just FYI to this body, I will be out of the country at the day that we're scheduled for our next meeting, so.
Oh, and you don't want to attend virtually just to give the update?
Thought about it.
Yeah, really.
It'll be about 3 in the morning and I'll be in Ireland.
I was just gonna say. he
4
wouldn't have
days
to
into
talk-
my
he wouldn't
distillery
have to
tour,
twist my
so.
arm to go with him. And we could, just adjourn the meeting, but,
I already told his wife that I'm gonna be a mouse in her pocket, so I can.
Yeah.
So, no.
Before we
I volunteer to be an
adjourn,
interpreter.
I'd like
You
to
can,
make
Kay.
two comments if I could. I noticed in this planning commission packet from 24.
or, yeah.
That there was, it's the Chairman MacArthur and Ryan, who work with us, will work on a letter of concern to MDOT for the traffic on M15 and Granger Road. And they'd like to see a light there. And I just wondered, does anyone know if,
Yeah, the
That's-
letter did get written and sent. I have a copy of it if you like. I just.
no, have we heard anything?
Um,
I guess is, I'm all for that light at Granger Road.
I,
yeah.
No is the answer, okay.
I wasn't prepared to speak on it, but my knowledge from it is that the alternative they're recommending would be a roundabout. That's their preferred avenue,
And
and so,
imagine what a nightmare that will be.
and so I think that's why it was just a no, because we'd rather do it this way, and the result is inaction, as it normally is, so.
You would never be able to get out on those roads. I mean, at rush hour.
In a roundabout?
In a roundabout?
Oh, yeah, you would. I love, oh my
So
gosh.
much northbound
I gotta
traffic.
take you with me.
Have you, have you?
I'll show you how to do it.
I'm gonna take you
Yep.
over to Granger Road on
Continual.
any night and see if you can get out.
In the morning, if you're coming east, you could probably get in.
You can, in the
You're
morning.
right, in the
Yeah.
morning, but,
Yeah,
mm-mm.
but in the evening, trying to get into the roundabout would be tough.
The last thing, I want to thank all of you for the flowers and cards and the visitation in the recent passing of my sister. It meant a lot, thank you.
Our condolences.
I'm sorry. I have another last thing. I promised you I'd bring it up. So in looking at different training and conferences and things I need to attend, both in the village manager role and the treasurer role and from a leadership role, and having identified things that are important, also one for the DDA, it's going to feel like I'm spending a lot of money on conference and education because compared to my budget line, I am, but it'll be coming out of the treasurer budget line and the other areas. So just to let you know, it's probably going to be somewhere around 10 grand for the year of travel and conferences that I'm going to be needing to spend. And it'll be, it's all coming out of monies that haven't been spent already, right? So my budget line particularly has almost 30,000 in it that is not going to be spent this year. So it'll come from that. So just to put that out there, that's my intent, is I'll probably be in that field because there's, one is the treasurer, Michigan treasurers, they have a week-long conference that if you have to go to 3 years in a row, when you come out, you're certified to be a treasurer for any municipality in the state, which obviously is going to bring, I would think, a great deal of benefit to the village, having me knowing how to do that job, but also being able to teach other people or whatever. So that's one of them that's it's more significant because of the time. And then the one is in, I think, Philadelphia for the DDA. And so just to kind of put that out there that it's all still within the budget. I'm not asking for any allocation of new monies. It's just going to be reallocation of some things that we didn't spend or whatever it is.
And those are
Well, as long as we see
coming up.
results.
That's right.
Yeah,
And
but
Matt-
those are coming up then that
Matt
we'll
did
see.
mention those to me and also Jenkins that had some coming up as well. So in the teacher's world, what do they call that? Something career
Continuing
development,
education, no.
things like that. I don't know about in the teacher's standpoint, but from what I can see for the DDA and for our village, we will be getting our money's worth for some of these training classes that both the Matts have mentioned.
Yeah, and Matt, just so you know, I've always supported investing in our staff so that they can improve their skills and abilities, because I feel that's a good investment for the villages to help people.
And it's evident in the budget. You all have included that in the budget. And I just, I don't want anyone to forget that I'm wearing at least 2 hats. And so I'm drawing from both of those hats for travel and education budget. But Melanie, you asked if when they were. I know that 3 of them are between now and mid-May or the end of May. So they're still in this fiscal year. I don't have them off the top of my head, but Matt, you might have the one in Philly off the top of your head. Do you know? Is that April?
6th through the 9th.
Okay.
And what is that one?
Main Street.
USA?
Oh, that's the Main Street?
Mhm.
Okay.
And Matt, just reciprocal to that, if you see any training opportunities for our council or our planning commissioners, feel free to please share them with all of us.
And you have the flyer from the new one I got today, there tonight, for the ZBA training, because this board is also our ZBA.
I think I've done that one already,
so-
so.
Yeah, there is, there's a lot of them from the Planning Association, and those mostly are more appropriate for Planning Commission, but it probably wouldn't hurt for me to share them with you as well, because, most of them are virtual meetings, they're not even in person, and they're, a couple hours, so they're not a big commitment, and they're not a big dollar commitment either, but they're good educational times. So I'm gonna hit mute on myself now.
Okay.
I make a motion to adjourn.
While he stopped
I
talking.
was gonna call, now we're on to item 13.
Do that, Ken.
Okay, moved and supported, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, the village council meeting of
Linda,
February 24th
Linda,
is now adjourned.
Melanie, can I see you?